It's another day in court for NDC's Assin North MP James Gyakye Quayson. And as has been promised, the minority were not in Parliament, but they were also not in court. So where have they been all this while? We'll examine this shortly. But Mr. Quayson was in court and he set in motion multiple legal processes, including a fresh action at the Supreme Court in a bid to put his trial on hold. He's demanding additional documents from state prosecutors to fully understand the case against him, as well as asking that this day, his day-to-day trial be received. Now, Attorney General Godfrey Dame is, however, accusing the legislator of engaging in a plot to prevent the court from hearing the case at all costs. Joseph Akable, who is a court correspondent, joins me via Zoom with more. Joseph, this view by the AG did not sit well with lawyers for Mr. Quayson. Tell us more. Blake, can you unmute so we can hear what you're telling us? So we're here with Joseph Akable, who's joining me via Zoom to tell us more. We understand that the AG, that point he did not take lightly. The view by the AG did not sit well with lawyers for Mr. Quayson. Akable, you were in court. Tell us more.
So as far as lawyers for James Gyakye Quayson are concerned, they believe that it is just in case of making sure that due process is followed. That is how come he's making these applications. And so they did indicate forcefully that they believe that it's in the interest of justice that the case is put on hold. Abraham Amaliba, who is the NDC's Director of Legal, told us after proceedings that the AG was wrong to have made that particular assertion, and that in previous cases handled by the AG himself, he had made similar arguments that it was in the interest of justice for such a matter to be put on hold when the applications at higher courts, such as the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court.
From the side of the NDC, that's Gyakye Quayson's lawyers, we're putting up the argument that we could not proceed with the trial once these applications are pending before higher courts than the Court of High Court. Particularly the application for certiorari, which is before the Supreme Court. In that application, we are seeking for some reliefs, which are that one, because the Attorney General failed to fully make disclosures to lawyers of Gyakye Quayson, there was a need for the Supreme Court to determine that matter because the disclosures were not fully made. We don't know from our side what the Attorney General was hiding from, because the rules are that you must fully disclose. But in this case, the Attorney General did some half disclosures, not full disclosure, which meant that the Attorney General had something to hide. It is for this reason that lawyers for Gyakye Quayson indicated to the court that because disclosures were not fully made in accordance with Republic versus Bafo-Boni's case, there's a need to stay proceedings.
I mean, what does Mr. Quayson still make of that?
It is mind-boggling that the Attorney General should be speaking that way. This same Attorney General, in a different matter, ex-party Japan, indicated to the court, and that was at the Supreme Court, that because disclosures were not fully made, clearly it was wrong for the court law to proceed. And in that case, Justice Yoni Kolendi actually said that the refusal of the court to stay but to proceed is a clear indication of bias against the accused persons. So he cannot approbate and reprobate it. That is not the work of an Attorney General.
Joseph, what has Mr. Quayson himself been saying on this?
In fact, in terms of the proceedings so far, there are a number of individuals that come over to the court premises to throw their support behind him. And he says what is happening is injustice, but he is confident that he will emerge victorious.
Good afternoon to every one of you. I just want to take a moment here to thank all of you coming out of your busy schedules, devoting your time to support me. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to the party, NDC. and also to all Ghanaians. This is a fight for justice and democracy.
Thank you.
Because today it may be happening to Quayson, another day it will be happening to someone else. And we want to stop these things in their tracks. A true democracy should have a transparent system, a fair justice trial, and no kangaroo courts. So I'm very hopeful. I believe in the rule of law, and I'm very hopeful that this matter will come to a very favorable conclusion. God bless you.
So Joseph, run us through the outstanding legal processes on this.
And so first, there's the Court of Appeal application where the Court of Appeal is being asked to set aside the High Court decision that's to hold a trial on a day-to-day basis. There's also the Court of Appeal being asked to put the trial at the High Court on hold pending its determination of that particular matter. Then there is this fresh application at the Supreme Court asking the Supreme Court to prohibit the High Court from proceeding with a case because the AG has not complied as far as they are concerned with the rules of disclosure, i.e. they've not received the entire complement of the documents that they want to be received. And so on 18th of July, the High Court will have to deliver its ruling on the issue of whether, because of these outstanding legal processes, it should put the trial on hold, or it will go ahead with the processes, despite the fact that various decisions may come from the highest court of the land, the Supreme Court, and the Court of Appeal, which may have a potential to change how things take place at the High Court base.
We also understand that some ministers of state were in court as well.
Yes, quite interestingly, two of them, Kweko Foresiama, the transport minister, and Gyakye Hammond, the Adansia Sokwa MP, and also Minister for Trade and Industry. For Gyakye Hammond, we know that there is a pending motion at the High Court where James Gyakye Quayson is standing trial, filed by lawyers for James Gyakye Quayson. They are citing him for contempt of court. He had made comments in which he had likened the James Gyakye Quayson case to that of Adamu Sakande, who we know was eventually convicted by the High Court, and made a point that James Gyakye Quayson will suffer the same. And this is what the lawyers deem to be amount to contempt. And so they are asking the High Court to punish him. But that is supposed to be dealt with next week. But he was nonetheless in court today. And what through his interaction with some of his colleagues in the courtroom, he says that you guys have dragged me here, so I'm here to see what is taking place in the courtroom. And we know that he has publicly indicated that he's ready to respond to that particular matter. So that is another issue that will be dealt with by the court later on.
Okay. Now, we know that the minority MPs had indicated that they will show up in court. Were all the 137 minority MPs in court today?
No, Brace, not at all. In fact, in terms of since that particular directive was issued, there hasn't been any instance where they've even reached the number 50 to even go beyond 50 and we can go into the hundreds to be closer to 137. Today, for instance, worst case, just about 20 of them that came into the courtroom, led by the minority leader, Dr. Cassiel Atoforsen, the deputy minority leader, Emmanuel Ama Kofi-Boa. There was also Kwame Gavins Abuja, the chief whip, and then other members of parliament like Samuel Okujeto, Blakwa, Roxy Nelson Dafiamepo, South Dai MP, Madina MP, Francis Xavier Susu, and a few others who joined at this particular session today. Interesting.
Grateful to you. So, question is, where were the members of Parliament? Let's cross over now to Parliament, where my colleague Kwasante, our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, joins us from Kweku. Can you confirm that the minority MPs were not in Parliament?
Well, they were not. In fact, a few of them were around to do other things, but not on the floor. In fact, Mahama Yaga was in Parliament. He was on the corridors. We spoke to him about this boycott. There was a number of them who had to do other business. For instance, there was a TB Caucus event today in Parliament at the DF Annan Auditorium. There were a few NDC MPs there. I saw a few NDC MPs' vehicles coming and going out. In fact, on the floor, one NDP MP made the point that a number of these NDC MPs are in their offices, are not coming to the floor. So yes, they did not turn up to the chamber to do parliamentary business in compliance with that directive from their leadership that they boycott sittings. But just like Joseph Akable has said, a number of them, the majority of them, were also not in court. So it begs the question, if you are boycotting proceedings of parliament to say that you are doing so to solidarize with your colleague and you'll be going to court with him, why are you not in court? And why are you also not in parliament on the floor of the House? So these are questions leadership of the minority caucus would have to answer in terms of what exactly is going on. Is it a fiat that was given that, well, we are just boycotting parliament because of the criminal trial, or just like the minority that had actually said at the time, that they are actually going to accompany James Gyakye Quayson to court. So, Brace, just like Akabla said, 20 of them at most were in court, but in parliament, there was not a single one on the floor of the House whilst business was going on, actually with some MPs accusing their colleague of actually sabotaging business in the House.
So with that development, what then happened in Parliament?
Well, so eventually Parliament had to adjourn. They simply did not have the numbers to continue. It actually also begs the question, if you look at the standing orders of Parliament, the majority side alone are able to do business and do everything on their own without the cooperation or the presence of the minority. The standing orders say that the numbers needed to transact ordinary business is at least 1/3 of all MPs. That is 92 at most. The majority side have 138 NPP MPs. If 92 of them turn up on the floor, they could have quorum to do business. When it comes to decision making, that is at least half of all MPs. Half of 275 is 137.5, which you can round that up to 138. The majority again have 138 to be able to do business.
Okay.
So they can still vote on crucial matters. But the numbers on the floor at various points today, 15 to 20, alternating between that. And eventually, they themselves feel that they could not do much business. They took the business statement for the ensuing week and then eventually had to adjourn to next week, Tuesday.
Thanks for this update, Kweku. Now, Dr. Rashid Draman is the Executive Director for Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. He has been actively been engaged in institutional, parliamentary, public financial management, evaluation, and governance issues for many years. What does he make of what's happening in our parliament now? Doc, I'm grateful to you for joining us. First, your reaction to the fact that the members of parliament were not on the floor and they were also not in court.
Yeah, that's making this situation a little bit murkier, because if you remember, when this boycott started, I indicated that if they are not careful at some point, they will be contravening their own standing orders. And we heard what happened earlier in the week with the Speaker citing them for breaching the standing orders, and that they have to seek permission each time they are going to absent themselves. Now, if you don't have members in court and you don't have them in the House, that might be a strategy that's about to put them in trouble, because then Ghanaians are going to ask, where are the members? Because even going to court without permission is bad enough in terms of their own procedures. And then not showing up in court and not showing up in the House, I think it's an affront on Ghanaians, because you are hired to work at Joy FM. You have to show up and work. And MPs are hired to work. They have to show up and work at the very least. Again, let me add, based on what your correspondent has said, it's not only the MPs who are guilty of this. I think the entire parliament is guilty of absenteeism. And this is not peculiar to this eighth parliament. We've seen that over the years. Speaker upon speaker has had to, adjourn sittings in order to look for the numbers. I think it's getting to a point where perhaps we might have to start looking at other ways of making sure that our MPs show up. In some parliaments, you don't show up, your salary gets deducted. Apart from the fact that, in our case, the 15 consecutive times means that you have vacated your seat. We haven't seen that happen before. Unfortunately, the standing orders don't have these provisions where you get punished, apart from the provision that you have automatically vacated your seat, which has never happened. I know the standing orders are being reviewed. Maybe if I had my way, I would have said that there should be a clause inserted there. I mean, if you absent yourself for even a day without permission, you get punished for that.
Okay. So what does this make our parliament look like? If both the majority and the minority sides are all not on the floor to carry out the reasons why they are being paid to be there, what does it make the parliament look like from your experience?
Yeah, it makes the parliament look like an empty house. I mean, that's what it makes it look like. Rather than a full house where, I mean, government and national business ought to be transacted on the daily basis. So I think our parliamentarians will need to up the game a little bit. I know they get sometimes caught up in committee meetings. They get caught up in international travel, other businesses of the house. But all these can be streamlined in such a way that, like in many parliaments, committee meetings don't take place or other meetings don't take place when plenary is taking place. So that we know that at all times, each caucus can account for its members. But sometimes you see plenary going on and some side meetings are going on. And some MPs, genuinely are at those meetings. Others take advantage of that. Then the big elephant in the room, the marriage between the executive and the legislature. So, I mean, ministers who are not there would say they are doing ministerial business. Yes, I think they are ministers and at the same time MPs. So that's why many are saying it's about time we took a very serious look at the Constitution and make sure that we go for a very serious divorce, maybe one that is supervised by the Supreme Court, so that Parliament is Parliament, the executive is executive, and then we can cure, this lacuna that has bedeviled, and on which maybe sometimes some MPs take advantage and absent themselves from the House.
But in trying to deal with the whole issue of absenteeism, you said that probably we should look at how we can get these ministers, the appointment of ministers on parliament dealt with. But how do we deal with absenteeism in general? Because you've mentioned that various speakers over the years have not been able to deal with it. If we are not careful, we'll carry this into the future. But how do we handle it?
Yes, I think you recently heard what happened during the Joasafo, Honorable Kennedy at Japan, the
Henry Court.
Greater Accra. I mean, have you heard anything again?
No.
Okay. So you have the microphone. I think you should go there and try to ask them what's going on. So I think, like I was saying, in some countries, for instance, in the Scandinavian parliaments, where they know they have taken a very realistic approach to this. They know we cannot sack our own members, or if our own members show up before the privileges committee, we can't sit there and judge our own members and say, kick them out of parliament. They took a realistic approach. You absent yourself, your salary gets cut. I think that is maybe one that can bite much better and faster than the whole privileges kind of approach, and then we go in a run around, and then finally the matter goes very quiet, and then we forget all about it and then start dealing with the next issues. So maybe a new approach to dealing with absenteeism is what we need in our parliament.
And who begins this new approach? Because they are beneficiaries of the current system, and of course it might probably be difficult for them to change it. So who begins this new approach?
Well, that's a tough question. I don't have the answer. I hope that they are all minded and they are all worried. When you bring like the visual that is behind you showing an empty house, I think it should bother all our honorable members, because they are supposed to be honorable. And if we hire them to go and work and they don't show up at work, I think they have to give us answers for that. So we cannot go from outside, you and I cannot go from outside and say we want to bring about this change unless we exercise our franchise. Okay. And that is only every 4 years. So this should begin from within. I mean, even if it's going to be against their own interests. I mean, I think they should look at the long-term interest and how they want to be remembered in this republic, that when they are all gone away from that house, we will look back and remember that when they were there, they were gallant men and women who instituted certain reforms that have made our democracy stronger than they met it.
We know our parliament is one that has a lot of respect in the international arena. With what is happening, how does it impact how we are viewed globally?
Yeah, I think we still live on our past glories, and I think very soon, I mean, this reality and our real kind of station and situation in the democratic continuum on the continent, I think will be catching up with us very, very quickly. We have a lot of diplomats who are here. We have international visitors and so on. Very soon, if we are not careful, when you mention the name of our country as a beacon of democracy, people are going to begin to question that. And these are some of the things that can lead to that.
Okay. Grateful to you, but kindly stay with me because the Supreme Court is being asked to impose sanctions on the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, for allowing the House to proceed with the anti-LGBTQI+ bill despite pending legal actions. Researcher Dr. Amanda Odo contends the Speaker has treated court processes with disdain and contempt. Dr. Odo is one of two citizens who have sued the Speaker of Parliament and the Attorney General over the anti-LGBTQI+ bill. She contends her checks show that the Speaker of Parliament has been served with all relevant court processes, including one asking the court to place an injunction on Parliament's consideration of the law. It will be recalled that Parliament last week wrapped up the second reading of the bill, bringing it a step closer to conclusion of processes on the controversial law. Legal Affairs correspondent Joseph Akable rejoins us with more on this. Now, Joseph, is any evidence provided to support this view that a Speaker is aware of the legal processes in court? Joseph, kindly unmute so we can hear you.
No. Oh, it's in your pocket. Okay.
All right, just before Joseph comes in, I still have Dr. Rashid Draman with me. Doc, your view on this point, that the Speaker, after presiding on over what happened in Parliament, an independent body of government, he's been cited for contempt. What do you make of this?
Honestly, I am beginning to get very worried in terms of the relationship between the court and Parliament. The Parliament can also get involved in the work of the Supreme Court. But I have seen over the years, Parliament has stayed away from that. But you see more and more, I think I can count about 4 or 5 times in recent years. I mean, in recent months, the most recent before this one, where the court has ordered Parliament to expunge Gyakye Quayson's name from parliamentary records and so on. Abdullahi versus the Attorney General, where the court came in and told Parliament what to do. I think if we are not careful, we'll get to a point where whenever Parliament is going to do its work, somebody will run to the court. And I think the earlier we stop this, the better it's going to be for our democracy. If somebody is not happy with a bill that is being passed by Parliament, the body that is elected, there is no group that is elected in this country apart from Parliament. And I think we have to get that right. And in a democracy, I mean, our country is called a democracy because of the 275 members that we have elected that sit to represent all of us. And if we are not careful, I think we might be eroding the powers and the work that Parliament has to do. Yesterday, we were on your program talking about, the new standing orders and the fact that now Parliament wants constitutional bodies like the Electoral Commission and others to come before it, to answer certain questions. And there was the issue raised about the independence of these institutions. And the former Deputy Attorney General made it clear, we are not interfering in their work. We are just calling them so that they can account for instance, maybe the appropriation resources that were given to them. And nothing more than that, no interference in their work, because they are supposed to be independent. And I think we have to respect the independence of each institution. So for me, I think it's time the Right Honorable Speaker and the Chief Justice sat down, to discuss this seeming growing tension between the executive, between the legislature and the judiciary, so that some lines can be drawn clearly. Because otherwise, tomorrow, if somebody is not happy with the budget, they will run to the court, and then the Supreme Court will come in and tell Parliament what to do. Okay.
Grateful to you, Dr. Draman, for joining us here on The Pulse. Now, Joseph Akable is with me now. Joe, is there any evidence provided to support this view that the Speaker is indeed aware of legal processes such as that?
In fact, what the plaintiff in this instance, Dr. Amanda Odo, what she did was she actually applied to the registry of the Supreme Court, because once he filed a case at the Supreme Court, it's the registry's responsibility to bring the case to the attention of the individuals or agencies that you filed the case against. And so she wrote to the registry of the Supreme Court to ask whether the Attorney General has been served with the court processes, the substantive case itself, and number two, whether they has been served with the application for injunction. Then again, they asked again whether the Speaker of Parliament has been served with the substantive case and whether he has been served with the application for injunction as well. And the responses from the registry of the court, a copy of which I have seen, indicates that these two individuals have been served with all of these processes. And so that is the evidence that they've attached. They again also add to the processes that they filed a story that was published on our own website, myjoyonline.com. The story that the Speaker indicated that they were going ahead to consider this, and I think the second reading of the bill, and despite the legal hurdles that the two legal processes that are outstanding. And so they attached that publication again to make the point that it is quite obvious that Parliament was well aware of the steps it was undertaking, despite knowing what ought to be done in terms of the legal process, causing it to halt this particular move as far as Dr. Amanda Odo is concerned.
Okay. Is there any specific punishment she's asking the court to impose, and when will this matter be dealt with?
In terms of previous similar applications that we've seen, they tend to say that, well, you can impose a jail time or maybe a fine, perhaps. In this particular instance, they simply say that they want the Supreme Court, as the highest court of the land, to impose appropriate sanctions. And they explain that, as far as they are concerned, Speaker of Parliament, Alban Babin, has conducted himself in a manner that shows that he does not respect the courts of the land. He has disrespected the courts of the land and treated it with utter contempt. And so they believe that the court ought to step in and impose those sanctions. The application is to be moved on the 19th of July. And so the expectation is that the Speaker will be served with the processes and he will show up at the Supreme Court and respond to it by way of once the application is moved. We do not know whether the contempt processes specifically, whether he has been served with that.
Has there ever been a case like this in our history?
None readily comes to mind in recent times. We've seen in various instances some high public officials, we've seen ministers of state who have been cited for contempt, we've seen heads of independent state institutions. Rarely comes to mind the former Auditor General Daniel de Molivo at a point was convicted of contempt of court. In terms of at the height of the level of the Speaker of Parliament, that is not an issue that I have personally encountered or come across in recent times.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Now, the National House of Chiefs at a meeting in Kumasi yesterday voiced its abhorrence to activities of LGBTQI+, describing it as evil and abominable. Ojiahoho Yao Jebe II is president of the House.
Declaration of LGBTQ+ as an abomination. Nananom LGBTQ+ is evil. We, the chiefs of Ghana, have been inundated by calls from our people to make an open declaration concerning the threat by LGBTQ. We, the chiefs, as the custodians of culture, the customs and traditions of our people, wish to state categorically that our traditions and customs recognize that our Creator, God, or Allah, and called variously by different religions, created man and woman to occupy the earth and procreate. There is therefore only male and female gender and no other gender. The Christians' holy book, the Bible, Muslims' Quran, and our traditions and customs affirm this fact. It is therefore an abomination and against all our cultural values as Ghanaians to allow others to import into our country anything contrary to the above values that we cherish or we have cherished over the centuries. We, the chiefs and our subjects, declare that we will not allow any group to propagate any cause, conduct, or behavior called LGBTQ+, or similar, be it man marrying man, or woman marrying woman, or in any other form in Ghana. This is an abomination, and we declare as immoral and an affront and infringement of our cherished values. We call on the police and other relevant institutions not to allow this abomination into the shores of our beloved country. Of course, we are not calling only on the police, we are calling ourselves too.
Ojaho Yaojebi II is the president of the National House of Chiefs. You're still watching The Pulse here on the Joy News channel. Now, the U.S. Ghana Alumni Association has taken its Women Empowerment Program to Obuasi to equip a number of women with some entrepreneurial skills to help them earn a living. Now, the move was to help these women become self-reliant and curb the possibility of falling for the exploitation of the men in these communities.
Cite the negative effects that the Galamsey activities have on the environment, including our water bodies and the forest. The irresponsible mining also has social impact. Socially, it is believed that the men engaged in these activities exploit the women and girls in these communities, enticing them with money. It is against this backdrop that the U.S. Ghana Alumni Association saw it prudent to organize the Women Empowerment Program at Obuasi in the Ashanti region to equip participants with valuable skills to earn them a living and make them self-reliant enough to curb any exploitation from the Galamsey men. The participants, drawn from the various communities in and around Obuasi, were taken through tutorials with emphasis on the safety and protection procedures as well as the various steps in the production stages. After the practical demonstration, the participants were put in groups to try their hands on the production of the products, which included liquid soap, shower gel, and afterwash. Some of the participants intimated that the training program would help them become self-reliant and be able to support their homes.
Woman, you have to have a handwork so that you take care of your house and your own home. Everything, as a woman, you don't have to have any one work. You have to have 2 or 3 or 4 so that it can add to your work and take care of the house. Especially me as a widow, no one is helping. Me alone is left. So I have to do certain to add so that I can take care of my family.
A facilitator, Louisa Amwa, indicated that with as little as 90 Ghana cedis, one can start the production of the liquid soap and make good profit from it. She therefore urged the women to go straight into action.
Going through this training, you don't have to rest, you don't have to waste any much time. You just have to kick start because you don't need much money to start. If I say much money, you need as as much as 95 Ghana cedis. At least this way is not too much for you to afford. Try and start so that it will not be like you've wasted your time, so that the time and the resources all in this training is waste. But start so that tomorrow when I see you, will be proud of you and know that indeed the training has done a lot of good to you and the society at large.
The Public Relations Secretary of the U.S. Ghana Alumni, Ken Afeji, observed that the training program is one of many projects the association has been embarking on with the aim of bringing positive changes into the Ghanaian communities. He called on all members to come on board to execute their mandate.
So what we are trying to do is we try to effect changes in our community as we were trained in the United States for. And this is just one aspect of the whole thing. We have a number of projects trying to make sure that we empower certain group of people in our society. And at this time, I would like to call on all our members to come on board, all members of US Ghana Alumni to come on board, because we are on the move. We are trying to effect this change that we are supposed to have in our communities. Come on board wherever you are and let us do it as it's supposed to be done.
So far, the US Ghana Alumni Association has implemented a number of projects, including leadership training for head teachers, leadership and literacy projects, as well as setting up LITT clubs in selected senior high schools across the country.
As you're watching the pulse here on the Joy News channel, we'll take a quick break, but still to come ahead of the show, there is a major advocacy by the Stop TB partnership to put tuberculosis and its adverse impact on citizens' health and the country on the national agenda. There's a conversation for us to have on this after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back from the break. This is still the pulse on the Joy News channel. Now, there's a major advocacy by the Stop TB partnership to put tuberculosis and its adverse impact on citizens' health and the country on the national agenda. The organization is seeking to revitalize the TB Caucus of Parliament to push the move. At a meeting Friday with the parliamentary group, it secured the assurances of MPs to deepen the advocacy in the national interest. Tuberculosis remains a pressing global health concern affecting millions of people around the world. In Ghana, the escalating number of TB cases poses a significant challenge to the country's healthcare system and its progress towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goal target of ending the TB epidemic by 2030. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Gyakye Quayson joins us with details. Kweku, first, how big is tuberculosis on the agenda of Parliament, and does this new initiative make any change?
Well, I should say that this new initiative appears to be the one pushing members of Parliament to do more. In fact, today in Parliament, almost all who mattered were participants, starting from the second Deputy Speaker of Parliament, who is the only speaker who is around town. Joseph Osewusu is not around. The Speaker himself, Alban Bagbin, is not around. The leadership is not also around. You know that the minority boycotted. So the higher echelons of Parliament who are actually around at the moment were all at this conference. I mean, giving you a sense of how much important this partnership from this TB partnership and this network means to the MPs. In fact, if you look at the Health Committee, the chairman of the Health Committee, Dr. Nana Yufrie himself was there. The MP for Nabdam, Dr. Ket Nawani, was also there. So hitherto, I've not heard much of a conversation around whether or not TB was such a big thing for parliamentarians. But today, MPs are now commenting and they are saying that this is something really that they think and deepen the process in terms of putting TB back on the higher pedestal of the country.
Interesting. And so from the way the parliamentarians received this, do you see any sort of, commitment, higher commitment really to this cause?
Well, that's actually the biggest takeaway from today. In fact, in time past when conversations about TB has been had on the floor, it was almost always brushed off as though it was not really important. But today, MPs are committed that whenever health ministry budget comes, for instance, they are going to make sure that there is something big for TB. It means that they are going to be speaking about it. They are going to make statements about it on the floor. They are going to demand that the health ministry the Ghana Health Service, which was also there. I saw Doctor, the Health of Public Promotion of the Ghana Health Service was also there. So it's also the bigger commitment that is coming in now. But now MPs are assuring, when the Deputy Speaker made his speech, he actually acknowledged how big of a concern TB is in the country and how big of an issue that the citizens must take it. And they are starting this from Parliament, committing to ensure that there is enough budgetary allocation to the Health Ministry, to the Ghana Health Service, and all other allied services. So clearly, this partnership coming from the TB partnership is such an incredible feat for parliamentarians now. And it is something that they're going to hop on and ensure that what is necessary is done.
Did they give any reasons why probably in the past it hadn't been that huge on the agenda as members of Parliament?
Well, no reasons officially were given, but you realize that for politicians, they usually move with the wind. So if something is big, you can suddenly see that MPs will hop on it. Okay. TB isn't a thing that has come up so big on the floor. In fact, in the last year, it hasn't even come up on the floor at all. No questions have been filed, usually on such important matters. That is why it's so important what this TB partnership is doing to bring this agenda to the doorsteps of Parliament. There's a caucus for parliamentarians to hop on this. There's a TB caucus in Parliament. What the partnership with this group is now seeking to do is to revitalize that caucus to ensure that it's big on the agenda. And people concede that they should have done more, they should have done better, but there's no better time to do it than now, and it's always better late than never. All
right, grateful to you, Gyakye Quayson, joining us from Parliament today. Thankfully, we've been joined in the studio by David Kwesi Afre. He is the chairman of the Stop TB Partnership of Ghana, and he's here for us to have a chat on this. Grateful to you for joining us now. The campaign against TB, just like HIV and AIDS, has been a long one. Question is, why is it still a challenge?
Yeah, thank you so much, Kweku. TB is still a challenge because a lot more people die of TB in Ghana than you can imagine. It is clear, according to our own prevalence surveys, when you are taking every 100,000 persons of Ghana, you have a minimum of 87 active TB cases.
100,000?
When you take every 100,000 population in Ghana, you have 87 active TB cases among them. Now, so what it means is that we are supposed to be finding about 44,000 TB cases annually. As we speak, we are finding around 16,000 annually. And so you have many more people dying every day of TB. The statistics are very scary.
So we are finding or funding them?
We are finding them.
Okay. So
now,
we have to
so
find
what it means is that
44,000.
we're supposed to find 44,000 TB cases annually.
Okay.
We are not able to find the 44. We are finding only 16,000. We are supposed to find 44,000.
Do we know the reason behind why we cannot find all the 44,000?
Yes, it is because of logistical constraints. It's a business of funding that is not there. Before you find one TB case, you need to spend a certain amount of cedis or dollars to be able to reach out to find one TB case in a community and put on treatment. Now, resources to be able to put people, community workers like civil society, to go to hard-to-reach communities and everywhere they can reach. Resources to drive the agenda on the media, involving you, the media houses. Ensuring that nurses, in the health workers in the Ghana Health Service at the district level, at the CHIPS compound level, at the NGO level. I mean, it's not there. You have, as we speak, for example, we have only 97 NGOs that are working across the country with meager resources, finding the TB cases that they can find to support the government. If we are talking about 270 districts, for example, or constituencies, for example, and you have only 90 that you are reaching. In fact, when you come to the tools that we use to screen TB, that is in the laboratory, we are talking about gene expert machines. And gene expert machine is covering just about 1/3 of the country. So what it means is that we are not, gene expert machine is a machine that is in a laboratory.
Yes.
So if we take sputum of a presumed TB case to the lab, we are supposed to use that machine to screen in a lab to determine whether, and we don't have up to half of the country covered. In other words, this is the reason why with the Stop TB Partnership Ghana, for example, you have NGOs transporting sputum from one district to the other, where you can find the machine, so that you cut down the catastrophic cost it has to take to get one person to know that they are positive. So they go to the communities to go and screen, and then when they presume that you are TB positive, then they take the specimen, which is principally the sputum. This sputum must be tested in a laboratory for you to be confirmed positive or negative. Okay. Now, the machine that detects this, I'm telling you, we don't even have enough in the country.
Are these not the machines that during the height of COVID, we had to convert some of them to be doing the COVID testing?
Exactly.
Those are the machines?
Those are the machines. So what happened is that they were using a different machine for COVID, but along the line, then we have to rework things to see how we use the gene-expert machines also test. And this is why COVID tests were traveling from one region to Accra before they are tested in Gucci until the gene. So what we need is more of the gene experts in the country. If we can have more gene experts in the country, have more money coming in from government, as we speak, we actually have only, for the next 3 years, we have a budget of $80 million from our donors, that is Global Fund. Okay. The government of Ghana's commitment is not there. So what we need now, the TB program needs a budget of about $18 million annually. Okay. So if you have only 18 million for the next 3 years from your donors, if you divide 18 million by 3, do we have up to 9 million? No.
You need 18
we
million
need 18 annually.
Year.
Yes.
But your partners are making 18 million for you
Good.
for 3 years.
So we need government support. We need the president of Ghana to come in. Just as he allocated resources to COVID when COVID came, you need to allocate resources too. Because Ghanaians are dying every day of TB. You have more than 30 people dying every day. The statistics are clear. And so we want to call on the president of Ghana. We want to call on the Minister of Finance. We want to call on Parliament. And that is why we were in Parliament to do this.
So on that note, are you confident that the MPs are willing to now champion the cause of TB and to make sure that you are getting the right funding to deal with the issue?
Oh, yes. Their commitment is clear. I mean, it has to take us a lot of mobilization, a lot of education, a lot of sensitization to get to talk with the committee of, select committee on health to understand us, and then now are ready. And so as I speak to you, the chairman of the health committee, Honorable Ayu, himself is Afriye is the chairman of the TB Caucus in Parliament, and the others are supporting him to make sure that they drive resource mobilization for TB in Ghana. They are aware of the gaps, and the commitment is clear. The deputy speaker, I was with him. My team was with him in the office today for about an hour discussing the processes we have to go through to make sure that we have increased budget in the next budget 2024 for TB. And it is resounding, and it is becoming more refreshing that the energy is catching up with Parliament. If the leadership of Parliament today, represented by Honorable Isiama, the only speaker around the country in the time, ready to make sure that he drives the business. In fact, he promised categorically to take it to the business of Parliament to ensure that resources are allocated to TB in the next budget.
Okay, interesting. Now, we understand that this event is a build-up to the UN high-level meeting in September.
Yes.
What is that about, and why is it crucial for the campaign against TB?
So this is what happens. For example, in 2018, we had the president of Ghana and all other presidents around the nation going to the United Nations general meeting on TB, and they signed on to certain declarations which were supposed to be targets that Ghana has to achieve. For example, we came back from New York, we were not able to achieve those targets. We are around 60-65% of achieving those targets. Now, we have an upcoming UN high-level meeting again on TB in September 2023, specifically. And Ghana is expected to participate, of course. So now, revitalizing the TB caucus in Parliament is a tool to make sure that, one, The parliamentarians are able to work with the missions, Ghana's missions in the United Nations, and to ensure that Ghana participates in building the declarations that are supposed to be meant for nations to sign. So then, after the commitment, after this declaration is designed, we need to get the MPs as a tool and to get all that matter in the Office of the President, Office of Ghana Health Services, Office of the National TB Program, and then among we, the civil society, we must form part of that delegation to go to the United Nations meeting on TB. And then we all form part of the declaration. When we are back, we want Parliament again, the TB Caucus in Parliament again, to be a central tool for the demand of accountability on the President and all of us in making sure that we translate those declarations that we are going to sign onto in September this year into commitment for the country to make sure step by step we become accountable in resource mobilization, we become accountable in making sure that the people are screened, the people are treated, we are making sure that there are availability of all the logistics that are needed in this cascade of TB business in order that we are able to end TB particularly by 2030.
No, but 7 years we have 7 years to go. You just said that we are just doing around 16,000 out of 44,000.
Yes.
And we want to end it by 2030.
Yes.
That's unrealistic. But in your estimation, with what I've even just said, what do you make of our commitment towards the UN commitment?
So this is, our commitment are not good enough because we are not bringing, the president who has gone to sign onto it has committed to coming down to put TB on his own political agenda. That he has not been able to do, okay? So then the commitment of the presidents of parliament and the Minister for Health and the Minister of Finance are not enough. But that is why the Stop TB Partnership, we are thanking our mother organization, the Stop TB Partnership Geneva. Thank you, Luchika. Thank you, Chief Austin. They are the global guys trying to bring down resources so that we can hold the leadership accountable by putting TB on the high political agenda. So we know that their commitment hasn't been good, but that also means that we have not held them accountable, okay? So our role as civil society now is to make sure that we are holding them accountable. And so long as we can keep holding them accountable and working with the structures that are there, we should be able to end TB if we have the needed resources. COVID came. Like joke, the president announced a $100 million facility. Suddenly, in a year or two down, we can talk about the impact of TB, COVID down. If the president can allocate even $10 million a year
for TB,
to support the global fund. Look, let me give you this. TB it's woefully underfunded. Global Fund helps Ghana with 3 diseases: TB, HIV, and malaria. For malaria, we are giving, for example, for the next 3 years, starting 2024, we are giving $120 million. Okay? You can divide that into 3 and know the annual budget. And then HIV is receiving
$40 million.
You understand? Every year. And HIV is $95 million. And TB is $18 million. So if TB is $18 million, how do we end TB? Now, TB actually needs a minimum of $18 million a year. And we are going to be getting from our donors $18 million for the next 3 years. So we need the president to come in. We need the president to come in. The donors have tried their best. They are bringing something. Now, TB is killing. Look, it's serious. Somebody will need to talk more about this. We call on all of you, the media, to get interested. Call on the National TB Control Program. We'll bring them. Let's discuss it. The number of people who die every year out of TB. In fact, when we even detect people and they are on treatment, those that die because they are not detected early. Most of this is because we don't have the resources to go looking for them. You see, when COVID came, the president allocated money for case tracing.
Tracing.
You understand?
Contact tracing.
Contact tracing. So where is the money for contact tracing for TB?
For TB.
If I am TB tomorrow, there should be resources allocated in one form or the other.
But if we know we don't have the funds, that it's not coming for us to do that, then we have to look at how we can prevent people from getting it, isn't it? how can someone prevent him or herself from contracting TB?
You see, treatment is prevention. If you have person living with TB with you, you don't have a choice.
Okay.
So the biggest way of prevention is treatment. So those who are already existing, this is why we're talking about vaccine for COVID, so that you limit the number of people who are carrying the disease. And when people become immune and we have herd immunity, where majority of the people are vaccinated, they're fine. Now, until we have the vaccine for TB, we are not there. We already have that estimate of 44,000 people who are in Ghana living with TB. Annually, if we work hard, we should be able to find, and we are not finding them. So what it means is very simple. We have to, those who are already living with TB, we must invest to find them. If we can find them and cure them off the system, nobody will get infested again.
So in your estimation, what does the Ghana Health Service need in the short term to help the tuberculosis control unit to mitigate the spread?
It's resources. We need urgent resources. You see, when the program has money now, one, they will increase the number of diagnostics facilities in the country. Now, this diagnosis machine called GeneXpert also need what we call the cartridges to be able to operate it. Now, we have always had shortages of cartridges. The reason we have shortage of cartridges is because of lack of resources. So our donors say that we are going to give you this amount of money for TB. Now, you are working, and the money they've given to you, you have used it to procure certain logistics, including cartridges, put on containers, drugs, and all of that. Now, before you realize, the shortages have come because government has not had money to buy more to cover the country. And so there is always shortages of everything. So we have shortages of GeneXpert, we have shortages of X-ray machines, we have shortages of cartridges, we have shortages of drugs, shortages of sputum containers, so human resources not everywhere.
Oh, wow. That's a serious issue then.
Good. So we need the president to bring his voice onto the table for TB. And it is Ghanaians who are dying. In the last 2 years, the president has invested $100 million for COVID. And today, he can declare COVID not a threat to Ghana. If he can bring the same attention to TB, the Ghana Health Service will do their work, just as they did it for COVID. The National TB program is available. I salute Dr. Yao Edu-Sipoku. I salute the Director of Public Health, Dr. Franklin Esielu-Bekwin. They are doing a wonderful job. What they need is resources. Call on the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, he will tell you what he needs is resources to make sure that there are simple logistics that have to be driven. Civil society is ready. We have NGOs in every district, but we don't have all of them actively working because we don't have the resources to give them.
The funds.
We don't have the funds. And what can they do? There are times that even if you have a small fund and you go to the community to collect sputum, and you come to the laboratory, there is shortage of
cartridges.
Yes.
The resource.
Work done is zero. So if we are going to drive TB to an end by 2030, we need to drive resources.
But realistically,
and
can we do it?
Yes, we can, as long as. Did you believe that COVID could go? Is it not unprecedented, the amount of investment that has been done into COVID? We need to invest in vaccine for TB. Okay? If we can invest in vaccine for TB, those who are already on treatment, and we clear them off, 7 years is too much. All we need is money.
Interesting.
All we need is money.
How many people die of TB every day? Do we know? Do you know that number?
The last time we checked, we had 30 people dying every year.
30
every day.
Yes. Of TB.
Yeah, globally it's a huge figure. We're talking about $1.6 million.
Wow. Something must change.
Yes.
Something has to.
In fact, TB is now killing more than malaria and HIV.
Wow. Yeah, because if 30 people are dying, that's serious.
Oh, yes.
And I hope that
that is Ghanaian figure.
Okay, I understand where you're going.
Yes.
You mean that these are the ones that are recorded?
Yes.
The ones that are not recorded?
You can imagine that.
Okay, interesting.
You can imagine.
We wish you all the best in this fight, and we hope that indeed it becomes a topical issue. Like you've stated, we would also do our part to ensure that we all drive this, because it's scary. The numbers you're giving are very, very scary. 30 people dying each day.
Oh, yes.
It's a scary number. Thank you for coming, sir.
God bless you.
All right, now you're still watching Joy News, the Pulse on the Joy News channel. Now, Ghana's Nuclear Regulatory Authority, NRA, is advising against people's choice to live under high tensions or telecommunication masts. According to the authority, the exposure to the radiations from these masts over a long period of time can have a negative impact on a person's future generations. They are also advising people to demand for certificate of authorization whenever they go for x-rays or scans at the hospital, since unauthorized service providers can expose patients to negative health impact. I've been engaging Dr. Henry Levy, the head of non-ionizing application department at the NRA. Thank you so much for agreeing to speak to us.
It's a pleasure.
We have a lot of people who have built their houses under high tensions and under telecommunication mast. Let's start with the high tension one. How dangerous is it for someone or some people to live under high tensions?
Good, thank you. Now, for all those high tension cables that you see, they transmit electricity. And electricity basically is the flow of electrons. And whenever electricity is flowing or the electrons are flowing in a conductor, a magnetic field is generated around the cable. Now, these magnetic fields that are generated, we consider them as non-ionizing radiation. And when you are located within this non-ionizing radiation, you are located in the field, it's likely that that radiation can have an effect on your health. Yes. Most of the time when you have to stay there for a very long time, then the probability that you have one of these effects increases. That is why it's not advisable for people to reside under these high tension cables.
Yes. Do we know the specific effect that one may suffer?
Okay, great. Now, these non-ionizing radiations, the effects that they produce, they are not deterministic. When I say deterministic, it means that it's not something that when you receive the radiation, instantly you see the effect. They are not deterministic. They are more what we call the stochastic effect, which may not affect you yourself, but could affect your generation. Others in your generation, it could affect them. Now, when you come to the electromagnetic radiations, the effect may not cause you something that you may see. Okay, because the non-ionizing radiations, their energies are not that strong enough to cause ionization. Okay. So what it can cause some heating effects, and these heating effects could even cause damage to your cells in the long term, and that could give you some health effects.
Okay.
Yes.
So it means that in your future generations, some deformities can come up as a result of the prolonged living under this
Yes, it's possible. Now, in this field, it's not like in the field of ionizing radiation where there are concrete data to show that. But for non-ionizing, there is that probability that it could happen. So because of that, you need to avoid that.
Oh, okay. Yes. But we don't have specifics in terms of the impact that they've had or recorded.
Great. Yes. You see, when you come to ionizing radiation, there have been accidents and incidents, and based on that, there's enough data to conclude that these are the effects that can be caused. But for non-ionizing, we do not have those much information to come to that conclusion. Okay. But what the assumption is that it could lead to such effects. Okay. There are studies to show that there could be such effects. And for radiation, you don't just assume that nothing will happen. It's better to assume something could happen and take measures done to say nothing will happen. Okay. Probably you may not be around, and maybe your second or third generation could have effect due to the fact that you decide to stay in that field. That is why it's better not to stay in that field. Now, to add to that, there are some things that we consider whenever you are in a radiation field. The first one is to reduce the dose of radiation to you. We consider three things. One is time. The time that you stay in that field. If you stay longer, the probability that the effect will happen to you is high. Okay. Then the second one is the distance. The closer you are to the source of the radiation, the higher the probability that could happen to you. And then the third one is what we call shielding, a shield. But mostly shielding is the workers that we talk of shielding for. But for members of the public, like those residing under those high tension cables, they can use distance and then time. So when you notice, they tell them that do not build directly under that. They give some distance, and when you build outside that distance, it means that you are safe.
Okay.
So that is why it's very important for them to follow these regulations or guides that are given by the ECG or whoever mounts those.
So which means that the squatters who are living directly under the high tensions in the city, they are in danger over the long-term period.
Yes, they are. Okay. It's not the best of things to do. And there are some readings that are saying that, you see, I mentioned earlier that magnetic fields are generated. And then our brains, when they are working, they send signals, electric signals that are sent. And these magnetic fields will actually interact with the signals that are sent by your brain. And that could also create a problem.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So those thoughts are actually there. Yeah.
Interesting. What about the telecommunication mast? We've heard in the past that if you live under the telecommunication mast, you may end up getting cancer.
Yeah.
How is that also?
Yes. Now that is just like the one I mentioned earlier, to do with the high tension cables. It's the same thing. Also emits it also emits non-ionizing radiation. So when you stay in that field for a long time, those effects you can suffer them. Okay. Those stochastic effects, you can suffer them when you stay in those fields for a long time.
Okay.
Yes, that's true.
But if that's the case, why do we allow telecommunication companies to erect masts in places where we live?
Okay. Thank you. Now, before any company at all can mount a telecommunication mast in any locality at all, there are measurements taken. And when measurements are taken, then when they realize that the values that they are getting is safe, it's then that you can be allowed to mount the mast at that particular location. And currently it's EPA that is in charge of that. So if the mast fails the test, there's no way EPA will allow them to build that mast. And then even where people are to live around the mast is indicated. But people will still go there. But you just want to tell people that once the demarcation has been done, don't establish or build within that. You are just creating problem for yourself.
But sometimes these masts are built or erected in people's homes, behind a house, on top of the house.
Yes. And in all these cases that you see, that is if that particular mast has been authorized. The measurement has been done, and where the people are is deemed to be safe. If they are not safe, they won't allow them to, be there, or they won't allow the mast to be built. Yes.
So there's nothing like us getting cancer. Those are myths. They're not. Things that you have evidence to back. There's nothing like that.
Yes, you mean those are built under
when we live under the telecom mast and what have you.
It's I cannot tell you that those staying there cannot get cancer, because getting cancer may not come only from the telephone mast.
No,
if it's only from those ones, the probability that is, if you live in the zone that is, if you are not in a zone that is demarcated as unsafe, if you don't live there, then the probability that you get it will be very low.
Okay.
Very low. Yes.
But why is the EPA doing that and not you, the NRA?
Good question. Before the NRA was established in 2016, 2016, that was when NRA was established. Then EPA was already doing that. And then they used Radiation Protection Institute, that's the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, to do the measurements for them. And then that's how it was. And then they have I think in one of their regulations or so, that responsibility.
Okay.
But our act did not repeal or whatever term they use that particular clause, so they are still doing it. But when it comes to, you may see it as our mandate, as NRA, but because they were doing it, that is why they are still doing it. Yes.
So you're saying that if I live under a high tension or under a telecommunication mast, I shouldn't be afraid because the EPA has taken the readings, and when it's not dangerous enough, they will allow the mast to be there, so we shouldn't worry.
Yes, that is what it means. But here we are talking only about the radiation hazards. Radiation.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
But there are other ones that are not to do with radiation.
Yes,
you could have the mast falling and all those things. Yes, that's a different issue.
Okay, but in terms of radiation, we should.
Yes,
we
in terms of radiation, yes.
But just that when you live there continuously, generations after, you can have the impact.
Yes, it's possible.
Okay.
It's possible. That is why, as much as possible, if you can avoid it, do so. Do so, especially when that mast has not been authorized by the EPA. If it has not, if it is authorized by EPA, then it's safer. Yes, then let me put it that it's safe. Because if it's not safe, they won't authorize it.
But how can the ordinary citizen tell that this mast has been authorized by the EPA?
Great. So if you live in a community, you can always check from the operators. You can check from them, or you can go to EPA and ask them whether this particular mast has been authorized. You can go to EPA, or you can ask whoever is there to show you evidence. Whenever NRA, whenever we authorize any facility, we give them a certificate, and then one of the licensing conditions is that, or one of the authorization conditions is that you have to display that certificate where, or at a place which is visible to people around. It should be visible to them. They should know that you are authorized. So if you pass by any maybe X-ray facility and then you don't see NRA certificate there, then it means we've not authorized it.
Okay.
Or either it could be that we've authorized it, but the people did not display it there.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So you can always ask a member of the public.
Once we are talking about radiation, another thing that is commonly perceived to be dangerous to our health is the usage of microwaves.
Yes.
How true is that?
Yes, microwaves, also non-ionizing, and they can also, the probability that they can cause these radiation hazards or radiation risk is also there. Yes. So the microwave, whenever you are using it, you have to make sure that it's not leaking. Because when it's leaking, then it means that the radiation that's not supposed to come out is coming out. So in trying to shield the radiation from, I mean, when you look straight into the window, you look straight in there, you see that there's something like a mesh in there. Yes, so that mesh kind of prevents the microwaves radiation from coming out to you. That is why you have to make sure that when you are using your microwave, the door is actually closed. It seems the system is designed in such a way that when it's not closed, you can power it on.
Okay.
But some can find a way around it. The door is not closing. They can try and then close it themselves and then power it. With that, there could be leakage, and that could harm you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, we expose the food in the microwave to the heat.
Yes.
We don't cover it.
Yes.
Isn't that a source of worry as well?
Okay. So the fear that people have is that because it's microwave, after warming the food, the microwaves will remain in the food, and then you eat and you are eating microwave. But that is not the case. The energy of the radiation is what will interact with the water in the food, and then it warms up the water. That is at the end, it warms up the food. So it's not like it's a microwave that is deposited in the food. No, it's not. Because when you take food out of the microwave, and then you take an instrument to measure whether there's microwaves, you're not likely going to see anything. But yes, people advise that you take food out of the microwave, put it down for some time before you eat it. It's just a fear that there may be some microwaves emitted in there. But
okay.
That's okay.
But scientifically, I can just pull my food out of the microwave and start eating, no problem at all.
Okay. Yes, that can be done. It's not like for if the microwaves, if they're actually like particles, they are particles that go into the food, and when that happens, some of the particle is deposited in the food. Then you can think of something like that, but that is not the case.
Okay.
That is not the case.
So when does it become okay? So my door is okay. I close it.
Yes.
Nothing is coming out.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. You know, even the manufacturer, when they manufacture, they take all those measurements, but most of the time we don't read the manuals.
Okay.
But if you read the manuals, you realize that they've passed the test before they get in here, especially the new ones. But what we are thinking of is those second-hand ones.
Okay.
Because probably they've been used over there for a long time before coming here. And some are even old before coming in here. They need to check whether they are leaking before it gets to the market.
But the Energy Commission checks that.
The Energy Commission for the second-hand ones? Or you mean the new ones?
Don't they check for the second-hand ones?
Well, the second-hand ones, I don't know. Okay. When the importers bring them to them and then sell in the market, I don't know whether Energy Commission checks that. If they are checking, then they are checking for the power consumption. That is why they may check on and not the radiation.
But why aren't you also checking for the radiation bit?
Good question. You see, these microwaves, when they bring them, they come in bulk, quite a lot of them. Probably you want to just sample a number of them and then do the checks, because you can't go to people's houses to go and check that just because of the pure number of microwaves that you are looking at in Ghana. Our numbers cannot do that. Yes, we are thinking of, especially the used ones that come into the country. We are thinking of getting the importers, so that when they import such, we go take samples, do the measurements, and then if the data we are getting is good, then we can give them the authorization to take it out to public. But you know that settings, you need laws in order to do those things. You need regulations in order to do that, and we've not developed those ones yet. Yeah, but it's something that the department is looking at.
No, but once it has to do with radiation, and we have fears that second-hand machines could probably be quite dangerous to the health of Ghanaians.
Dangerous. Could be dangerous.
Could be dangerous.
Yes.
Why should we be looking on? Because for all these years we've not tried it.
You know, these things have legal dimensions and then all those things. So we need to have we have the act and then the regulation. Normally the regulation tells maybe the operator or whoever what to do, and we need those ones too. Currently we do not have that. We are working at getting such regulations to be passed by Parliament. So we need a lot of help from our parliaments when we send our regulations to them, and then they work on them and they are promulgated. That will help us, and it gives us that more power to actually do our work. Because let's take it that you have somebody who has imported a microwaves in bulk. You are going to do inspection, you want to take measurements, and that will take maybe some time before such a thing is done. And then the person says, which law are you using to come and do this? Right? You know, these legal things, as much as possible, you want to be sure on what you are doing. You are backed by the law. So when you do it, and the people should be ready to, or even when they're importing, let me use X-rays. For X-rays, you don't import an X-ray into the country. These are the ones they use in the hospitals or wherever. You don't import any unless we give you permit.
Okay.
If we import it without permit, then that is a violation.
Okay.
And you have to be dealt with.
Okay. I'll bring you to the X-ray conversation, but with so for brand new microwaves, do you check them?
Currently, no.
You don't check that too?
We are not, but we intend to start doing that.
So how can I trust that even if it's a brand new microwave, I am safe to to use it?
Good. At times you need to rely on the manufacturer's manual, okay? Because outside there, most of the time, this X-ray, I'm using the X-ray again as an example. Before they get into the country, where it is manufactured, they do those tests. So when they come here, they come with those certificates, but we do our tests and confirm. Yes, that is how it is. So what it means is that those ones, the new ones, they come, they are confirmed, the tests have been done, but we over here, we've not confirmed it. So that is.
So you're only believing that the guys over there have done the right thing?
Yes.
So if in case because of business they haven't done it, then all of us are at risk then? That
is, unfortunately, that is how it will look like. Yes, but you see, there are rules and regulations. If the company, there's a licensed company, they are bound to do the right thing.
Okay.
But if they are not, you can have people that will do these things without, then that's where the challenge comes from.
So what would be your caution or your advice for people who would want to buy microwaves that are second-hand ones?
Well, for the second-hand ones, as much as possible, I don't want to sound like I'm spoiling somebody's market, but I'm looking at health here.
Sure, yeah.
So as much as possible, if you have the means, don't go for the second-hand one. Don't go for those ones. Try and then get a new one.
Okay.
Yes, it's safer that way.
With this X-ray conversation, what's your role in there as the Nuclear Regulatory Authority?
X-rays?
Yeah.
Okay, so our Act mandates us to actually regulate anything that has to do with radiation, devices, and even if you want to do research, and that research has to do with radiation, you need authorization to do such a thing. So briefly, that is what.
Okay. So if I go to do an X-ray at a hospital or any facility that offers that service, what should I look out for?
Okay. So as a member of the public, you go to an X-ray facility. The first thing that you need to look out for, to be sure that machine is working well and I'm safe, what you have to do is look out for the NRA certificate. It should be displayed where you can see it. When you don't see such a thing, then it's likely that that facility has not been authorized. And when the facility, or if the facility is not authorized, and then you deal with them, then you do that at your own risk.
Okay.
But when they are authorized, it means NRA is giving you some assurance that that facility is safe.
Okay. Yeah. How do I know? I mean, what should I do if I go there? I don't see anything on the wall.
Yes. Good. If you don't see anything on the wall, ask the operator or whoever is there, ask whether they've been authorized and ask for the evidence that the facility has been authorized.
Sometimes you go there as a patient, you're feeling pains.
Yes.
You just want to go through the process.
Yes.
Would the person really have that time to ask, let me see your health certificate before? Realistically, if the person, unless of course you are not in pain and you're walking there healthy, but you've been asked to check something, that's fine, you can do that. But when someone is in need of a relief, he or she might not consider or have the patience to go and ask for a certificate.
Yes, that is very true. So that is why we are encouraging the public that when you see such a facility that does not have the certification, kindly inform NRA so that we will move and then make sure that whatever is there is corrected before the patient we are talking about gets to that facility. So we actually depend on the public for information. And we have people calling us, they've seen this facility here, but they are sure the facility is not authorized. Then we go in there. If they are not authorized, we make sure they do the right thing. So that is why we want the public to know. You go to any facility, the X-ray facility, and then you don't see our certificate there, kindly inform the NRA, and then the appropriate measures will be taken to regulate that facility.
Aside the certificate, what else should I look out for as an ordinary person? What should I look out for to tell that this is a regulated entity that's doing the right thing? So in terms of radiation, I'm told there's a device that you use in measuring how much radiation is even bouncing back to the person who's doing the work. What should I look out for to say, okay, these people are doing the right things?
It will be difficult for the lay person without the certificate to conclude that that facility is not authorized. Because what you are talking about, the badge that you are talking about, is only the operator of the machine that wears that badge. So if you go in and the person exposes you before you see the badge or you don't see the badge, that will not be the best. That is why we actually advise that they display the certificate outside. Because for the lay person, it will be very difficult.
But how dangerous is it for me to go for services from a facility that has no authorization?
So you are exposing yourself to radiation. You see, when the facility is not authorized, then it could be, or it could happen, that the level of radiation that that machine is supposed to emit, that will be safe for you. That is, if NRA has authorized that facility. You have a facility, and then let me just use numbers, okay? Let's assume that for the problem that you have, the broken bone that you have, the X-ray level that they need to do that, let's take that is 10 that they need to. So if NRA will go to that facility, we're going to do measurements and see if it is 10 that is coming out. Now, if it's 10 that is coming out, so if it's 10, then you are safe. But if a machine that has not been authorized is emitting at, let's say, about 40, and then you go there, you expose yourself, that level is too high for you, and that could cause a problem for you.
Okay.
Yes. That is why always you go to a facility, when it's radiation emitting, make sure that you see the sign there, the NRA certificate, then that gives you that assurance that this facility has been authorized.
What do you do when you get a facility that has not been authorized?
Well, when a facility has not been authorized, the law mandates us to take a number of measures. We could close that facility down. We close it down and then make sure that all that they have to do in order to be authorized, they do that. So when they apply to us, then we'll go for inspection. We do our inspections and then do all our verifications. And then when that facility meets our requirements, then that facility is given authorization.
Okay. So just to wrap it up, wrap this conversation up, what would be your advice to people who are watching us now? From those who are living under pylons, to those who are using, microwave, we all use microwaves in our homes, to, people who are going for X-ray services.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So my advice to members of the public is that in all these things, you need to make sure that you are safe. And in order to do that, do not stay under these pylons. Do not stay under them, because you stay there for a very long time. And then even depending on your sensitivity, it could create problem for you. So do not stay there. And then for the X-rays, you go into that facility, as I've already said, make sure that that facility has been authorized before you go in there. So that gives you assurance that you are safe. Okay. That would be my advice.
Doc, I'm grateful for this.
Pleasure.